Yeah, yeah, yes, you did, Terry Bean.
I did. I
So
did. All right. Well, listen, don't try and shortchange me. If you say I give you three words and there's four, like you're cutting 25% of the words right off the top, man. And I'm not here for that.
25% reduction in words.
Boom, you just cut it right off. You're like, you know what? You didn't really give me a lot to go on. No, I gave you 25% more to go on than you thought I did. I listen, I don't know what more you need from me, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce you to the next Terry Bean, not the former Terry Bean. We are talking now to the next Terry Bean. So Terry Bean, what's up, man?
What's up indeed? How you doing, Roger? It's good to see you. As always, man. As
So
always.
it's a winter Friday. This is a unpaid advertisement for Mammoth Distilling,
Okay.
Rose and Rye. It's a whole story behind this varietal of rye that is only grown on South Manitou Island.
Nice.
And there's a whole story behind this that I'm hoping Stuart and the folks at Mammoth Distilling in 2022 are going to help them tell this story a little bit in greater detail because it's a winner of a story. But in much the same way as these guys are constantly reinventing themselves, Terry Bean is constantly reinventing himself as well. So
A little
you
too much.
dangled these words in front of me in combination that I was intrigued by the concept of relationship development management. So Terry Bean, what do those three words together in tandem mean to you and to our listeners? What does that mean?
So, business, we've been saying at Motor City Connect since basically the dawn of its existence that all business is relationship business, right? We've heard it for years that all things being equal, people will do business with people they know, they like, and they trust. And so, if that's the case, then you'd better get really, really good relatively quickly at building relationships, building trust, being likable, right? And how you're out there and getting known. You were at TEDx Detroit the other day, and I gave a little interlude talk that was just simply titled How You're Known.
Right.
So these things are all really, really important. And I think in this next phase of the Terry Bean life, I'm going to just dive wholeheartedly into helping people get there quicker, more
Mm-hmm.
efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Uh, for most folks, it's the end that they seek, not the path.
Sure.
So for folks who might be interested in this whole idea of like, okay, so Terry Bean is he's gonna help me do that, flatten my curve. What are some of the methodologies behind that process for the interested?
So that's interesting. That's a solid question, and I like it. So I came up with this little methodology that I call the S.I.T.C.H, right? And so it really starts with taking a deep dive on these five areas.
Okay.
Number one is what's your situation?
Uh-huh.
Where are you right now, and where do you aspire to be? Right? Because if you can't bridge that gap through coaching or through consulting, or especially on your own, right? You're not going to get to where you want to go.
Right.
So I like to think of myself as a mirror, right? So I sit here with people and I ask them questions, deep penetrating questions to understand that situation and where they want to go, and then reflect back to you what your deepest intentions are. And I don't know that a lot of folks are equipped to go as deep as they really need to on their own, right? Because when we're in it, we have this blind spot,
Sure.
right? So that's always a challenge. The I stands for inspiration. What inspires you? Because we look at a lot of times, we talk about the what we do, but the why we do things. And you just told me a story before we hopped on about a cup that you have next to you that is such a strong why that you're going to continue to use that cup, right?
Right.
That cup's a game changer with obvious reasons. But that inspiration's the thing that makes the difference between, my alarm just went off and I better hit the snooze button 3 or 4 more times versus I'm ready to kick the sheets off the bed and go kick today's butt,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
inspiration super important. The T is truth, right? What's your truth? And more importantly, what's the truth that you need to make sure other people are aware of? How do
Hmm.
you get that message out in a way that they're actually going to hear it, right? And see it. And most importantly, feel it in their heart and
Right.
feel it in their soul. Because that's that resonation piece, that's that attraction piece. Communications is the C. Occasionally it's channels, because if you're not broadcasting that message, right? What tools are you familiar with? What do you use? What do you like to use? Where's your audience? Again, how do you reach them? How do you dot them right between the eyes? Because if your message isn't doing that, they're not hearing it anymore. It's
Agreed.
gone. And then the last is humor, right? Because ultimately, if you're going on a road of business development, or more specifically entrepreneurship, I do a lot of executive coaching. Man, if you don't have some level of humor, you're not going to have the tolerance, you're not going to have the stomach, you're not going to have the things that you need to go through this.
Right.
Because in all sincerity, it's just so much this. If you're lucky, because it could be like this. This is a
Right.
visual, folks. We're doing the infinity sign, the crooked lines, because it's just not a straight path to success.
Yeah. So those things working in tandem with one another will help the attendee, the participant, the entrepreneur in the making have an understanding, right? I mean, that's really what you're trying to do in that exercise, is to
That's it.
give someone a framework for the decision making that each of us need to make in our entrepreneurial journey. And if you don't have a solid handle on each of those 5 elements, it's not that you can't be successful, but you will not go as fast. You will encounter roadblocks and dead ends and things. And not to say that you won't anyway, but if you've not given yourself at least the opportunity to have that foundation in place, it just becomes that much more difficult.
I look at it as a roadmap, right? So it kind of gives you the things that you're going to do. It's going to give you the things that you're going to say no to.
Right.
And the reality in our world, if you're not a hell yeah for something, it really should be a no. This is the world we live in right now. How many times do you hear people talking about how busy they are? Right? But busy doesn't equal productive.
Right.
And so just being busy for the sake of busy is not great. And if we really mapped out our day, our week, our month, our year, we'd find that 40, if we're lucky, to 80% of the stuff we're actually doing moves the needle this much,
Right.
right? Let's get in the fast lane and move the needle, right? Have it be kind, I don't want to say monumental, but have it at least be noticeable.
Yep.
So this roadmap gives you kind of, and I like how you said the decision making process, right? It
Right.
allows you to figure out where you're going, and what you're going to be held accountable to, whether that's through someone like myself in the coaching space or in the consulting space, or if it's just yourself, or you find yourself an accountability partner.
Man, and I, from an accountability perspective, just made a rather bold proclamation this week, say that Social Good Promotions is going to be $1 million organization come 2022.
I like
That's going
that.
to require us to more than double in revenue in the next 12 months. That is daunting. And yet I spoke it into existence because I know that the only way that it will even remotely come true is if I say it.
And believe it and hold on to it and feel the feeling of what that's going to be,
Yeah.
right? So the, from a universal law perspective, it's not, hey, I want to do this and I'm declaring it. It's going to January 1, 2023 in your mind, and thinking, who's Roger, who's Social Good Promotions as $1 million company, and really feeling those
Yeah.
feelings and internalizing them.
Yeah. And that attaching yourself to the emotion of it is what gives you ownership of the outcome.
That's it.
And if you, to go back to the S.I.T.C.H, if you haven't been specific about each of those 5 things, it's a lot easier to let yourself off the hook for something that you really want to accomplish, once you've gone through that process and you've taken ownership of it, there really is no getting out of it, right?
It's-
And you talk about accountability. It's, you can have all of the accountability partners in the world that you want, but if you haven't spoken your big dream into existence, then I mean, yeah, you can have somebody hold you accountable to a goal that's not really the one that you are really meant to have.
Right. You're accountable to what at that point? If you haven't declared it, great. Maybe you're accountable to getting some tasks done, but are you sure that those tasks are moving you in the direction that you want to go?
Yeah.
And that's really, I feel like, a challenge for a lot of people, new and old in business. I've been doing professional speaking now for close to 15 years. And depending on the talk, there are plenty of times when I'll ask the audience, how many of you know what you want to be when you grow up? Right. And the amount of hands that go up are very limited. Or if I
Right.
ask it in reverse, it's the same. How many don't know? And I'm not talking to junior high kids. I'm talking to 40, 50, maybe even older business professionals that still, more than halfway through their career, are kind of clueless as to where they want to go,
Yeah.
because we just kind of ride with life, right? And you have to co-create your life.
You have to co-create. That's a good one. I might clip that and put it at the open.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So here we are in almost 2022 in this post-pandemic economy, this noisy, divisive, acrimonious environment that it's really, really challenging to try to carve out a niche for yourself in a way that you can make a living doing what it is that you are attempting to do. So, knowing that full well, we both know it is really, really challenging at this stage of the game to shine. How is Terry going to market Terry's services in a way that will allow you to rise above all of that noise that's out there?
That's a great, great question, and I think about that way too often, right? And you're an erudite fellow, so the thinking sometimes gets in the way of the doing,
Yeah.
right? And so the focus for me is do, right?
Mhm.
So I'm gonna look at a carpet bomb strategy, and I'm gonna look at a sniper strategy. I'm blessed to, as you know, and commented on and ridiculed me for. I'm blessed in having a large network, right? And not necessarily doing the things with it. There have been plenty of times when I'll make a post on social media and kind of clasp my hands and say, okay, well, I've done my marketing for the day, and that's not enough, right? So it's really about making sure that you have the air cover of social media, getting the word out, making your messaging tight and clear and frequent and relatable, and again, dotting your audience between the eyes.
Right.
But it's also about identifying the people that you really, really want to talk to and doing that one-to-one kind of combat where you're getting in their inbox, you're getting in their voicemail, you're getting in their face, whatever the case may be. So it's having that combination strategy that's really going to help. And I think you used the word niche earlier. It's about being really focused as to who you're going after, as opposed to I'm all things for all people. I of
Right.
course am, but from a business development standpoint, if you're all things for all people, you're nothing to no one.
Right. Right. And I think what I know about you is if you think about the marketing funnel, right? So there's awareness, consideration, decision.
Yes.
Gary Bean is a killer at awareness stage.
Hmm.
You are the best at getting people aware of your network and even the things that like you stand for and believe in. You're very transparent on social media about who Terry Bean is as a person. Even in consideration stage, that second phase, because your community is so engaged on social media, I mean, it's really challenging to try to get a community of people to interact with you on those platforms. And you've succeeded at doing that better than most that I've seen. And to me now, like for you, what the next Terry Bean is decision stage, right? And what you've done well that I'm going to be excited to watch you do more of in this next version of yourself is I write often about this idea of not being a generalist, to your point.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have a problem and I go to my doctor and he says, hey, we see something weird on your MRI in your brain, we're going to send you to a brain specialist. When I go to that doctor, I am not like, well, how much is this going to cost, doc? And, I'm not really exactly sure that you are the right brain doc. Like by the time I get to the expert, it's like, dude, when can we do the thing? Because they say there's a problem and I know you can fix this. So let's get to getting. So giving ourselves an opportunity to be seen for the experts that we are in the spaces that we command really almost demands that we are more adamant about decision phase, because I have expertise to share. You have problems that need solved. What are we waiting for?
That's right.
Right. And so I'm excited to watch in the evolution of Terry being the marketer, how you're going to introduce more opportunity into the decision phase to allow yourself the opportunity to close more business and do more revenue and all of the things that when, let's face facts, we're small business people. It's really up to us to be the hunter, but also be the one to parse out the meat once it's happened. Right. So if you can't do that at scale, it's really just a nice hobby.
Right. Exactly. I told people years ago, I feel like I retired when I was like 39, right? And it wasn't intentional, man. It just kind of how it worked out. I spent time doing the things I wanted to do with the people I wanted to do them with,
Yep.
right? And that was fine, but it didn't build the things that I really need to build.
Yep.
And because it wasn't scalable. And through a lot of self-diagnosis as to I tell people all the time, we learn better when we lose than when we win.
Always.
We dissect more when we lose than when we win, right? And when you get deep into the weeds on stuff, you can be like, screwed this up, didn't do this, would have been better if this would have happened. Oh boy, this would have changed. For me, you talk about the decision phase. One thing that I think is going to be very different in this element is I'm giving people significantly less choices to choose from.
Gotcha.
Right. I'm going to be exceedingly intentional and specific in conversation, as opposed to, well, you could do it this way, you could do it this way, you could do it this way. I used to joke all the time. I'm like the dude hanging off the subway in New York, opening his coat. You need a hair dryer? How about a toothbrush? Pair of panties? What are you looking for? Right. And,
Right.
and that is not a great business model.
Yeah.
Right. It's helpful. And that's still, listen, with the network I have, with the resources I can bring to bear for folks, I can still make those connections. I can still make those introductions. And if I'm smarter than I have been, I'll have agreements in place with folks that I introduce where I can get compensated for some of those, right?
Yep.
Turns out, get the agreement in advance, right? Don't sell something for somebody and then go, hey, do you want to pay me on that?
Sure.
No,
Right.
they don't. No,
No.
they actually lose your phone number at that point. Not all of them, not all of them, but some absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of kind of almost like a first things first approach.
Well, Google the words coffee mug and see how many choices you get back as to the ways that you can procure said coffee mug. There's this idea about the preponderance of choice is paralyzing. So by giving fewer choices, what you're actually doing is empowering the person to make a decision more quickly about you and what you may be able to offer that person, as opposed to what I see in my industry oftentimes is every time we get a new opportunity, we restart the supply chain from scratch, which is just the craziest thing because it doesn't scale. You can't do that effectively and make the kind of success that any entrepreneur is seeking. It's not a feasible thing. So to your point, if I can solve every person's problem because I have so many tools at my disposal, then everyone looks like a prospect and my prospecting activities are so slow by virtue of the fact that like I can't eliminate anyone because I feel like every one of those is something I actually could close.
That's right.
It's so exhausting, Terry.
It's so exhausting. And then you sit there with your pipeline of hope, right? I hope this is gonna close. I hope this is gonna close. I hope this is gonna close.
Right.
And there's a bunch of stuff in there that we're almost counting on to be part of our community, part of our client base that had no business being in there in the first place.
In the first place, exactly right. So as you were thinking about the next Terry Bean, obviously there were this path that you've chosen, which is Terry being Terry for Terry's sake. But was also opportunities for you to continue to be Terry for someone else's team.
Sure.
Why did you choose the path you chose as opposed to plan option B?
Well, so the things that come to me organically are the things that I take a look at, right? And in the things that have come organically, I'm like, yeah, that's not going to be a fit. But if I'm being true to who I am and what I really believe, there's an independence factor about being an independent that you just can't get anywhere else.
Yep.
Right. And for those that have no clue, I spent the last year with a really cool insurance company, loved the people, was running sales and marketing for them, and had a great experience. In fact, we did so well that I worked myself out of a job. I mean, it was top shelf. And I'll still do some consulting with them moving forward and do some coaching with them in 2022. And I'm excited about the opportunity. But that was the first time I'd gone to the same office every day for more than 2 months since 2007.
Yeah.
Right? It's not inherently who I am.
Yeah.
But if somebody says, "Hey, we want you to come and do this. Here's 7 bags of money," right? We'll figure it out and it's reasonably interesting. Who knows, man? Who knows? But it's been fun for me to go through this. Do you want to do A, B, C, or D process? And the first thing I landed on, I was going to speak. That's it. I'm finally declaring it. I am a speaker. That's all I do. I speak and I find places to speak. And I love that idea. And as I was, rewriting my LinkedIn profile, as I was contemplating my talks, as I was looking at my one pager, Omicron came out.
Uh-huh.
And it dawned on me that there are, I believe, 19 other letters of the Greek alphabet that we haven't hit yet. So I like maybe now isn't the right time to invest all my eggs into that basket because they're just going to keep kicking that basket over.
Right. 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 Well, and for those of us who have had the opportunity in our careers to do both, be an entrepreneur and an employee, there are clear signs of where you're supposed to be. And once you've become what you really are, it's really hard to do the other thing. It really is. And I know you well enough to know that investment of the year you made paid you dividends in non-financial terms.
100%. 100%.
And the result of the next Terry Bean is an improved version of himself because of the investment that you made in that effort. But when you're who you are and when it's clear that the independence that you seek has been removed, it's like the shine on the star is just slightly dimmed, right? And for those of us who can see that in other people, it's pretty obvious, right?
When we were talking about there was an event where the company was sold, right? And so when the investors were coming in, investors look at spreadsheets, right? They don't look at anything other than spreadsheets.
Of course.
And so I'm the highest paid guy and I don't have production tied to me because I'm running other people. I'm doing the marketing thing, right? And so I knew like instantly as soon as that conversation started, and the owner and I started talking about what can he and I do together after the sale, right? Outside of those four walls. And we're looking at a couple of opportunities still, and it's really, really cool. But it's, he's like, it's weird. I feel really bad that we're having these conversations and that, we expected this to be a 3-year run, not a 1-year run, right? Maybe 4. Um, he's like, but I am so not worried about what's going to happen with you after. And I said, bro, I'm honestly, I've been a caged tiger, right? I'm a I'm a safari dude, and I've basically been in a cage. It'll be totally cool. So that conversation was like somebody opening that door of the cage up so I can go back out and do the hunt and do the prowl and do all the fun stuff.
Be the Terry that we all know you to be. I can't wait. It's going to be great. I'm going to be a part of it. I don't know exactly how yet, but I know I'm going to be a part of it.
Let's go.
And the world will be better for what you will put out there from a contribution perspective. Do you have something on the horizon that if someone listening is interested in learning more about what the next Terry Bean is all about, is there a place you want us to point people to?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. Trybean.com has been my website for, I don't know, 2009, 2010 timeframe. And it's getting a makeover as we speak. So I don't know if you'll see the old one, you'll see the new one. You can go in the way back and check out the old one, but it's gonna be kind of cool. So I'm gonna do a much better job of leveraging that as the home and driving traffic specifically there, right? As opposed to, you've probably heard me talk about people have marketing funnels. I had marketing sieves. I I'd go out, I'd collect a bunch of people, I'd bring them in, and they'd go through the sieve and they'd go back out to the universe. They weren't directed anywhere specifically.
Yeah.
So, again, lessons learned on how to continually be better. That's a good one. I'm also really easy to find on social media. LinkedIn's my preferred. So if you look at linkedin.com/in/Terry Bean. So I'm either Terry Bean or Try Bean everywhere on the socials.
And one of the most active pages out there on LinkedIn. So if you're seeking community, if you're seeking connection, if you're seeking a way to have dialogue with other smart people, I would say hop on Terry Bean's LinkedIn page and just get involved in the community. And there's always some interesting conversations going on. So I thank you for that, Terry. This is, I think this is your 4th time on the show. So I think you're like leading these days as the repeat
Wow.
guest, but there is something that you don't know, and this is a surprise, and I'm not worried about it because you are fast on your feet. For the video only portion of the podcast, I have been letting now my guest ask me a question.
Nice.
So
Nice, nice, nice.
this is now the floor is open for you, Terry, to ask me, Roger, a question that I have no idea what you're going to ask me, so I'm a little scared.
No, man, I'll make it easy. I'll give you one that you can tee up and knock out of the park.
Okay.
Obviously, with a guy like social good promotions, right? You care about giving back, you care about community, you care about paying it forward and building others up and helping along the way. What drives that?
Oh my goodness. All right. So the open of the book that I wrote, the foreword finds 7-year-old Roger and his mom laying on the floor of our house, hiding from a salesperson
From a salesperson.
at the door, a door-to-door salesperson. And I literally asked my mom, why are we hiding? Because lots of people came to our door and we never hid from anyone. We didn't hide from the mail person. We didn't hide from the newspaper person. We didn't hide from anyone else that showed up at our door. And suddenly, magically, this person makes it so that we have to hide. And she went on to tell me basically the thing that formulated the rest of my whole professional career, which was salespeople are evil. They steal your money, they take your time, they won't go away, they're hard to get rid of, go on every other thing that you've ever heard about salespeople. So for me, when 17-year-old Roger started being told with relative frequency that, hey, you're going to make a really great salesperson, it created a massive conflict for me.
Uh-huh.
Because I then believed that somehow people saw me as crooked and evil and all of the things that my mom had instilled in me. So I always, from the very beginning, had to try to figure out how to resolve this conflict for myself because I'm very competitive. I want to win. And it was clear that, like, yes, on the surface, all of the characteristics of a winning salesperson I had, but I had this conflict, but I was competitive. So I figured out a way to overcome that conflict by becoming a teacher. And my whole deal was, hey, client, prospect, I'm going to arm you with the questions you don't know you need to ask, so that when you make a buying decision, even if it's not with me, even if you don't choose me, I'll feel good knowing I gave you the right set of questions that are going to allow you the opportunity to make the most educated buying decision you possibly can. And it worked very well for a very long time. It was pre-internet. The internet kind of solved that problem for me, or for them. So for me, at this stage of my sales career, it's much more about legacy for me. It's about, what will people think about me and the mark I was able to leave professionally when I'm all said and done. And so we're trying to create an environment of teaching that we will bring new people into our organization who have no sales experience whatsoever from underserved communities, and teach them how to do what it is that we're doing in a way that they can then be successful. And Terry, we want to put them on a path to ownership. So I'm taking my upbringing from an underserved population, I'm marrying it with what I've learned, the skill set I've been able to acquire over the course of my career. And really, I'm trying to then build a new generation of salespeople who are not slimy, gross, awful, icky salespeople, so that we have, the idea of being a salesperson someday maybe won't be the kind of career that would find a mom hiding her child on the floor from. Right? So it's a bold move for us to try to attempt that, but that 100% is the motivation behind why I do what I do, for sure.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad I had the opportunity to hear that.
Yeah. And much like I said about speaking $1 million into existence, sometimes the veneer of professionalism needs to be removed, and some transparency and vulnerability need to replace it, so that the people that are considering giving social good promotions the dollars that would total up to $1 million, if they understand why it is we're doing what we're doing, then the possibility of them being motivated to help us in our journey grows. Right. So you asking me that question in reality actually is arming me with the opportunity to be able to tell that story for people who need to hear that. So while it was nice of you to hear it, it was nicer still of you to ask me of it so that I could tell the world all about it. So thank you for that, sir. I appreciate it. And man, I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders. I want to see you be just enormously successful, because I feel like you have a lot of gifts to give to the world, and I think that they deserve to see the light of day. And I can't wait to celebrate your success. So cheers to that, my friend, and all the success in the world to you.
Thank you, Roger. I appreciate you taking the time to have me back on, man. I look forward to seeing you in real life soon.
In real life, baby. You got it.
Yeah, all right.